Hey everybody, Graham here from therecordingrevolution.com, and I am slowly but surely unpacking the studio, and we're moved in, we're good to go. Just, it takes time, especially when you got kids. But I've got the rig set up, I fired open Pro Tools, and I wanted to throw out a video for you today. I want to talk about one of my favorite techniques in mixing, especially with drums, is what I call the stripped down drum trick. And this is more of an arranging idea, but this makes my drums sound better, in my mind, by making them sound worse for part of the song. So it's kind of backwards, right? So what I like to do is process my drums, use all the techniques and all the tools that I have available to me to make them sound clear and punchy and huge, or really whatever they're supposed to sound like in that song. But then for a moment, maybe a bridge, maybe a chorus, maybe half of a verse, who knows, for a moment in a mix, I like to remove some of that processing and get a stripped down sound out of my drums so they sound less like a studio performance and more like just a guy in a room. It sounds worse, it sounds less impressive, but then it can make the rest of the drums sound that much better, and it's a great change of pace for the ear. So it's a great mixing trick. Take a listen to how I did this in a song recently so you can kind of hear what I'm explaining, and then I'll quickly show you the 2 or 3 things I did to make this happen. You're going to hear a rock and bridge. It's going to die down a bit, and it's going to build back up.
Jesus, you justified us, and one day you'll glorify us. Glorify. If you are for us, God, then who can be against us? Oh, when the Word became flesh, dwelt among us. Oh, and we have seen the glory of the Lord, full of grace and truth, full of grace and truth. And the true light emerges, and we are enlightened. And the Word.
All right, so typical build, drops down, builds back up. But what happens in the middle is really, really cool. The drums change up a lot. Now, the drummer, he dropped down to more of a rim shot kind of thing, and the performance changes, which is just great. Great arranging and great drumming. It's a nice change of pace. But I looked at that as an opportunity to make the drums sound more stripped down, more amateur, less polished. And so 2 things I did. One was I took advantage of the room mic we had, okay? We tracked with a mono room mic, maybe 8 feet down the hall in a tiled hallway. So take a listen to that. Right? Not very impressive, but that's a drum kit in your room. And so what's cool is I took an opportunity to just do some simple volume automation and bump that up, whereas this is at 4, this is at 2. So I bumped it up a solid 2.5 dB. So a noticeable volume change. Crank up the room mic. And so that does 2 things for me. One, it gives me more of a roomy sound and less of the close, crisp overhead and close mic sound. So it sounds more amateur. It sounds worse. And so I feature more of that. And then 2, it is a mono mic and a mono recording. So my stereo overheads, my hard panned toms, and all those fun things to make the drum sound big, that goes out the window here, and it brings the drums straight up the middle. And then you get it sounds small, a smaller, more amateur sound, okay? The second thing I did was I tend to mix with parallel compression. You can check out some of my other videos for that. But what that means is I have a drum bus here, and that's where all my drum tracks are funneled through for a little EQ, and I can adjust them all in one fader. And then I also have all of my drum tracks, most of them, I think everything but my overheads, running through another bus in parallel where I have really crushed them with some compression. And so then I've blended in the compressed squash sound with the natural sound, and you get a cool blend. You keep all the dynamics of the drums, but you get the fatness of compression, right? So what I did in the bridge is get rid of the parallel compression. So I got rid of the compressed drum sound, which does two things. It reduces the volume of my drums a bit because I did have two copies of the drums in essence playing, but it also gets rid of a lot of the punchiness on the kick drum and snare, and you just lose a lot of extra compression. So it just drops a lot of that, and you get a more natural, boring, mono, amateur drum sound, which is great because it changes the pace and it reminds you that, oh, maybe those drums were processed. Maybe they were a little better than this. And then when the drums come back in on the snare fill, rolling all the way into the final chorus, you're much more appreciative of the mix processing than perhaps you were in the past. So it goes from this
You are for us, God, then who
to this,
among us? Oh, and we have seen
real intimate, real just home studio-esque, and then it builds back up.
and truth, full of grace and truth.
You get the fatness of the snare back, the parallel compression is back, and then of course the rocking chorus.
And the word became flesh.
So this is something you can do with really any setup. If you didn't track with a room mic, then you're gonna have to experiment maybe with going mono with your drums, maybe throwing them through a reverb a bit more to try to simulate a room mic. Definitely you can drop compression on your tracks. You could take all the processing out if you want and just go straight raw drum kit. Either way, strip them down for part of the song. It will make the rest of the mix of the drums sound that much better. Hope that helps. Again, this is Graham at therecordingrevolution.com. Hey, and thanks to you guys, this week we topped 2 million views on the YouTube channel. So fantastic. Thank you guys for watching. Thanks for being supportive of the tutorials. If nobody watched them and they didn't help anybody, I would stop. So it's because of you guys that we'll keep going. I hope you make some great music this week, and I hope to see you in a video in the not too distant future.